I came home from spinal surgery to find my bedroom empty. We sold your bed, my son laughed. You don't need comfort. He didn't know I had sold the house from my hospital bed until the liquidator arrived. Every pothole in Dorchester has a personal vendetta against my L4 vertebrae. I was sure of it. As the medical transport van slammed over a patch of uneven asphalt on Dorchester Avenue, a jolt of electricity shot up my fused spine, lighting up my nervous system like a Christmas tree. I bit down on the leather strap of my purse to keep from screaming, tasting old leather and fear. Sorry about that, ma'am, the driver called back. City roads in winter. You know how it is. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was concentrating on breathing, on the rhythmic hiss of the van's heater, and on the singular image keeping me sane. My bed. My beautiful, $5,000, adjustable orthopedic bed with the memory foam topper and the remote control that could elevate my knees to the exact angle Dr. Evans had prescribed. I had bought it 6 months ago when the back pain became unmanageable, draining my savings account, but it was worth every penny. It was a cloud. It was a sanctuary. It was the only place in the world where the fire in my spine turned down to a manageable ember. I had been in the hospital for 2 weeks. Spinal fusion surgery at 70 is not a minor procedure. It is a demolition and reconstruction project. I felt like a building held together by scaffolding and painkillers. All I wanted was to get home, navigate the 3 shallow steps to the porch, shuffle down the hallway to my converted first-floor bedroom, and press that button on the remote until I floated away into sleep. "We're here, Mrs. Sullivan," the driver said. Pulling the van to a stop, I looked out the window. My house. The Victorian painted lady I had bought with my late husband, Patrick, 40 years ago. It used to be warm. It used to have flower boxes and a wreath on the door. Now, in the gray light of a Boston snowstorm, it looked imposing and cold. The windows were dark. The walkway hadn't been shoveled. Snow was piled high against the porch lattice, untouched. There was no welcome home sign. There was no light on the porch. "Looks quiet," the driver noted, putting the van in park. "Your son is home, right? You said he was expecting you." "He knows," I whispered, my throat dry. "I texted him when we left the hospital." The driver hopped out and opened the back doors. The cold air rushed in, biting at my exposed ankles. He and his partner, a large man with gentle hands, unbuckled the gurney and lowered me to the ground. "Careful," I gasped, as the wheels hit the pavement. "We got you, Margaret. Easy does it." They wheeled me up the walkway, the tires crunching through 3 inches of fresh powder. David hadn't even salted the path. I felt a flash of irritation, quickly replaced by a wave of excuses. "He's busy," I told myself. "He's working on his app." He probably didn't notice the snow. We reached the front door. The driver knocked. Silence. He knocked again, harder. Bang, bang, bang. "Hello? Medical transport." Still silence. I could see the blue flicker of the television through the living room curtains. I knew he was in there. "David!" I called out, my voice weak. "David, open the door." It took 5 minutes. 5 minutes of me sitting on a gurney in 20-degree weather, shivering under a thin hospital blanket while the snow gathered on my shoulders. The drivers were getting restless. They had other pickups. Finally, the deadbolt clicked. The door swung open. David stood there. My son, 35 years old, wearing flannel pajama bottoms and a vintage t-shirt that said, Nintendo. He had a gaming headset around his neck and a look of profound annoyance on his face. "What?" he snapped, blinking against the gray daylight. "Your mother is home, sir," the driver said, his voice tight with judgment. "We've been knocking for 5 minutes. It's freezing out here." "I was in a raid," David muttered, stepping back. "I didn't hear the door." "Chill out." He didn't look at me. He didn't say, "Hi, Mom." He didn't ask how the surgery went. He just turned around and walked back toward the living room. "Just bring her in," he waved a hand over his shoulder. The drivers looked at each other. I saw the pity in their eyes. That hurt worse than the cold. They wheeled me into the foyer and helped me transfer from the gurney to my walker. The movement was agony. My spine screamed. I gripped the aluminum handles of the walker until my knuckles turned white, forcing my legs to hold my weight. "You okay, Mrs. Sullivan?" the driver asked. "We can take you to the bed if you want." "No," I said, my pride flaring up one last time. "I can manage, thank you. Please, just go." I couldn't bear to have strangers witness this neglect any longer. I wanted them gone, so I could be alone with the disappointment. They left. The heavy oak door clicked shut, sealing out the wind. I stood in the hallway of my own home. It smelled wrong. It didn't smell like lemon oil and old books anymore. It smelled of raw kale, expensive vitamins, and that cloying, musky incense Jessica burned to cleanse the energy. "David?" I called out. "In here," his voice drifted from the living room. I began the slow, painful shuffle down the hallway. Click slide, click slide. The tennis balls on the bottom of my walker glided over the hardwood floors I had polished for decades. I passed the living room archway. I saw David sitting on the couch, his feet up on the coffee table, feet clad in dirty socks. Jessica, his wife, was sitting on the floor in a lotus position, scrolling on her phone. She didn't look up. "Welcome back, Margaret," she said, her voice flat. "Please try to keep the walker noise down. I'm trying to center myself." "I just had spinal surgery, Jessica," I said, leaning heavily on the frame. "I need to lie down." "Okay," David said, eyes glued to the TV screen, where a digital battle was raging. "Your room is right there. You know the way." I stared at the back of his head. I remembered the day he was born. I remembered holding him in the NICU, promising him I would always protect him. I remembered paying off his student loans. I remembered letting them move in just for a few months, while David looked for work, a search that had now lasted 2 years. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Just get to the bed," I told myself. "Just get to the bed, elevate your legs, and sleep." I shuffled past them. I reached the door to the downstairs bedroom, the dining room we had converted into a master suite for me when the stairs became too much. It was my sanctuary. I had painted the walls a soft sage green. I had heavy velvet curtains to block the streetlights. And I had the bed. I reached for the doorknob. My hand trembled. I turned it and pushed the door open. I stopped. My brain couldn't process the visual information. I blinked, thinking perhaps the pain medication was causing hallucinations. The room was white. Bright, blinding, sterile white. The sage green wallpaper was gone, painted over with a harsh, high-gloss primer. The velvet curtains were gone, replaced by nothing but the bare window panes, showing the falling snow. My vintage dresser, the one Patrick had refinished for our 10th anniversary, gone. My Persian rug, gone. My bookshelves, gone. And in the center of the room, nothing. Empty space. My $5,000 adjustable orthopedic bed was gone. In its place, lying dead center on the bare, refinished floorboards, was a thin, blue rubber yoga mat. I made a sound. It wasn't a word. It was a low, guttural whimper of confusion and pain. I shuffled forward, the walker clicking loudly in the empty, echoing room. I looked around wildly. Had they moved me? Was I in the wrong room? "David!" I screamed. It tore my throat. I heard a sigh from the living room, then heavy footsteps. David appeared in the doorway. He was holding a glass jar filled with green sludge, one of Jessica's smoothies. He leaned against the doorframe, looking bored. "What is it now, Mom? I'm in the middle of a game." I pointed a shaking finger at the empty space where my salvation used to be. "Where is my bed?" I choked out. "Where is my furniture?" David took a sip of the smoothie. He licked his lips. "Oh," he said casually. "Yeah, we decluttered." You what?" "We decluttered," he repeated, as if explaining something to a toddler. "Jessica and I are launching a new lifestyle channel, the Minimalist Mindset. We needed a content room. And honestly, Mom, your room was a hoarder's nightmare. So much heavy wood. So much dust. It was blocking the energy flow of the house." "My bed," I whispered. "David, I just had my spine fused. I need that bed. The doctor said I need to sleep at a 30-degree angle. Where is it?" "We sold it," he said. The world tilted. I gripped the walker so hard I thought the metal would bend. "You sold it?" "Got a great price on Facebook Marketplace," David said, looking proud. "Some guy came and picked it up yesterday. Heavy thing. Took 3 guys to move it. We used the cash to buy the Peloton." He gestured vaguely toward the living room. "You sold my medical equipment to buy a stationary bike?" "Mom, stop being dramatic." Jessica's voice floated in from the hallway. She appeared behind David, wearing expensive yoga pants and a crop top. "It's not just a bike. It's an investment in our health. And honestly, that bed was an enabler." "An enabler?" I stared at her. "It enabled me to walk." "It made you lazy," David said, stepping into the room. He walked over to the blue yoga mat and nudged it with his toe. Look. I talked to a guy at the gym who's really into primal movement. He said beds are unnatural. They ruin your alignment. Humans are meant to sleep on the ground. I am 70 years old, I shouted. I have titanium rods in my back. Exactly, David countered, his voice dripping with pseudo-intellectual arrogance. You're weak because you've been coddled. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Mom, you need to reconnect with the earth. The floor provides resistance. It will align your spine naturally. He pointed to the thin strip of rubber. You can sleep there. It's better for you. We're doing you a favor, really. We're helping you embrace the minimalist lifestyle. Less stuff, more living. I looked at the mat. It was thinner than a slice of bread. If I laid down on that floor, I would never get up. The cold from the bare floorboards would seep into my bones. The hardness would grind against my surgical scars. I can't sleep on the floor, I said, tears finally spilling over. David, please. I'm in agony. Where is the money? I need to buy a bed. I need to order one right now. David shrugged. Money's gone. The Peloton subscription is expensive. And we bought some new recording equipment. Ring lights are pricey. You stole from me, I said. The realization hit me harder than the surgery. You stole my bed while I was helpless in the hospital. We didn't steal it, Jessica snapped. We live here. It's community property. We made an executive decision for the household. You should be grateful we even let you have this room. We were going to turn it into a studio, but we decided to let you keep the space. Just simplified. Simplified, I repeated. I looked at my son. I looked at the man who was drinking a $12 organic smoothie while his mother stood trembling in pain. I looked for a shred of empathy in his eyes. I looked for the child who used to cry when he scraped his knee. There was nothing there. Just a hollow, selfish void wrapped in flannel. He didn't care if I hurt. He didn't care if I recovered. He viewed me as an appliance that had become inconvenient. A piece of furniture that took up too much space. You're going to kill me, I said softly. If I stay here, on this floor, I will die. Don't be so morbid. David rolled his eyes. You're fine. Just lay down. Do some breathing exercises. You'll thank us in a month when your core is stronger. He turned around. Come on, Jess. The game is paused. They walked out. They left me standing in the center of the white, empty room with my walker and the blue yoga mat. I didn't move for a long time. The pain in my back was a screaming siren, but the pain in my heart was a cold, silent death. I looked at the yoga mat. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. He was right, I realized. But he was wrong about the source of the weakness. My weakness wasn't my spine. My weakness was my love for him. My weakness was allowing them to stay here, rent-free. Eating my food. Spending my pension. And slowly dismantling my life. I took a deep breath. It rattled in my chest. I wasn't going to lay down on that mat. I wasn't going to die on the floor of my own house to boost their subscriber count. I reached into the pocket of my coat. I pulled out my phone. My fingers were stiff, but they worked. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I swiped open my email. I found the folder marked Drafts. I found the email I had started writing 2 weeks ago. From my hospital bed? In the middle of the night, when they hadn't visited for 3 days straight, the email was addressed to Mr. O'Leary. I stared at the screen. I heard David laughing in the living room. I hit send. Then, the doorbell rang. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my walker at him. I simply stood there, leaning my weight onto the aluminum frame, staring at the blue yoga mat that was supposed to be my bed. The silence in the room was heavy, broken only by the sound of David slurping the last of his green smoothie in the hallway. He waited for me to argue. He waited for me to cry, to beg, to play the role of the frail, confused old woman he needed me to be so he could feel like the benevolent caretaker. He wanted me to lay down on that mat so he could post a picture of it later, with a caption about grounding and honoring our elders. But I didn't move. I closed my eyes. Inside the darkness of my eyelids, I wasn't in the white room. I was back in the hospital, 3 nights ago. The hospital room had been dark, lit only by the blinking lights of the IV pump. It was 3 a.m. My roommate, a lovely woman named Mrs. Higgins who had broken her hip, was snoring softly. I was wide awake. The pain in my back was a constant, dull roar. But it wasn't the pain keeping me up. It was the silence of my phone. I had been in that bed for 10 days. 10 days of doctors, nurses, physical therapists, and terrible jello. And in 10 days, my son had visited me once. He had stayed for 12 minutes. He spent 11 of them looking at his watch and complaining about the parking fees in the hospital garage. He hadn't brought flowers. He hadn't brought a card. He had brought a laundry bag of his own dirty clothes, and asked if I could get the nurses to throw this in with yours, because their washing machine at home was making a weird noise. I had realized then, staring at the ceiling tiles, that I didn't have a son. I had a tenant who didn't pay rent, who ate my food, and who viewed my existence as a slight administrative inconvenience to his life. That night, I reached for my iPad on the tray table. I didn't open Candy Crush. I didn't open Facebook. I opened my email. I searched for a name I had seen on a We Buy Houses flyer that had been stuffed in my mailbox every week for 5 years. A flyer David usually threw out with a sneer, calling it predatory trash. Mr. O'Leary, property liquidator, cash offers, quick close, no inspections. I found his website. It was stark. Red letters on a black background. I buy problems. I typed an email with one finger, my hand shaking from the medication. Subject: 42 Dorchester Avenue, Victorian. 4-bed, 2-bath. Message: my name is Margaret Sullivan. I own the house free and clear. I am in the hospital. I want to sell. Immediately, sight unseen. I do not care about the price. I care about the speed. The house comes with occupants who refuse to leave. I want them gone. Can you help? I hit send. I expected a reply in the morning. I got one in 3 minutes. Mr. O'Leary, I know the property. Nice bones. Corner lot. Occupants are tricky, but I have a crew for cleanouts. If you can sign digitally, I can wire the funds to a trust account within 48 hours. I'll offer $650,000. Cash. As is. It was low. The house was worth at least $900,000 in this market, but I didn't care. I wasn't selling a house. I was buying my freedom. Margaret. Deal. Send the papers. But you must take possession on Friday at noon. And you must change the locks immediately. Mr. O'Leary. Friday at noon. I'll bring the master keys. I signed the digital documents right there, tracing my signature on the glass screen while the nurse checked my blood pressure. It felt like signing a treaty to end a war I had been losing for years. Now, standing in the white, empty room of the house I no longer owned, I opened my eyes. Friday, noon. I looked at the clock on the wall, the only thing they hadn't removed. Probably because they couldn't reach it. It was 12:05 p.m. Well? David asked, his voice cutting through my memory. He was leaning into the room now, looking annoyed that I hadn't complied yet. Are you going to lay down? Or are you just going to stand there looking tragic? Jessica wants to film a welcome home reel for the TikTok, but you need to look more zen. I'm not laying down, David, I said softly. Why are you being so difficult? He groaned. It's a mat. It's soft. Look. He stepped into the room and stomped on the thin blue rubber. See? Cushioning. It's Japanese style. Very chic. It's a yoga mat from TJ Maxx, I said, and I'm not sleeping on it. Fine. David threw his hands up. Sleep in the chair in the living room. But don't complain about your back later. I told you. We're doing this for you. We're trying to save your life with minimalism. You're trying to save money, I corrected. You sold my bed for cash. It's the same thing. He snapped. Assets are liquid. We needed liquidity. The brand is about to take off, Mom. We just need a runway. Once we hit 10,000 followers, the sponsorships roll in. Then we'll buy you 10 beds. Gold beds. Whatever you want. I don't want a gold bed, I said. I want my home. This is your home, David yelled, his face flushing red. Why do you have to make everything a fight? You're home. We're here. We're a family. Why isn't that enough? Because you stole from me, I said. David rolled his eyes so hard I thought they would detach. We didn't steal. We reallocated resources. God. You are so toxic today. It must be the anesthesia wearing off. He turned around to leave. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. It was a sharp, cheerful sound that echoed through the empty hallway. David stopped. His face lit up. The anger vanished instantly, replaced by the eager, Pavlovian response of a man who lives his life through delivery apps. Finally, he exclaimed, clapping his hands. That's the sushi. We ordered the deluxe platter from Oya to celebrate the room renovation. Vegan rolls for Jess. Spicy tuna for me. I'm starving. He looked at me. See? We treat you nice. I'll even let you have a piece of avocado roll if you stop pouting. He strutted toward the front door. He walked with the confidence of a man who owned the floorboards beneath his feet. He walked like a king in his castle. I turned my walker around. It was a slow, agonizing pivot. I shuffled to the doorway of the bedroom so I could see down the hall. David reached the heavy oak door. He unlocked the deadbolt. He threw the door open with a flourish. "Delivery," he announced to the winter air. But there was no delivery boy holding a paper bag. Standing on the porch, shaking the snow off a heavy wool coat, was a man who looked like he chewed gravel for breakfast. He was short, wide, and built like a fire hydrant. He had a thick neck, a buzz cut, and eyes that had seen everything and found it all unimpressive. He held a clipboard in one hand and a ring of heavy keys in the other. Behind him stood two other men. They were enormous. They wore gray coveralls stained with paint and plaster. One of them was holding a crowbar. David froze. His smile faltered. David said. "Did you guys forget the food?" The man in the wool coat didn't smile. He looked David up and down, taking in the pajama pants, the headset, the socks. "Who are you?" the man asked. His voice was a gravelly rasp. David blinked. "I'm David. Who are you?" "Where's my sushi?" "I'm Mr. O'Leary," the man said. He stepped across the threshold. He didn't ask permission. He just walked in, bringing the cold air with him. The two large men followed him. They filled the foyer, blocking the light. "O'Leary?" David backed up, confused. "I didn't order an O'Leary. Is this a plumbing thing? Did Mom call a plumber?" Mr. O'Leary ignored him. He looked around the foyer. He looked at the walls. He looked at the floor. He tapped the wall with his knuckles. "Solid. Clean-out crew is late," O'Leary muttered to the man with the crowbar. "I told them noon. It's 12:10. "Clean-out?" David asked, his voice rising in pitch. "Hey, buddy. You can't just walk in here. This is a private residence. Step back outside." David tried to put a hand on O'Leary's chest to stop him. O'Leary didn't budge. He looked at David's hand on his coat like it was a bug. "Don't touch me, son," O'Leary said calmly. "Unless you want to bounce down those steps." David snatched his hand back. "Jessica!" he yelled. "Call 911. There are intruders." Jessica ran into the hallway from the kitchen, holding her phone. She saw the three men. She saw the crowbar. She screamed. "Who are you people?" she shrieked. "Get out of our house." Mr. O'Leary stopped looking at the walls. He turned his attention to the screaming woman and the confused man in pajamas. He looked bored. "Your house?" O'Leary asked. He lifted his clipboard. He flipped a page. "According to the deed transfer recorded at the Suffolk County Registry at 9 a.m. this morning," O'Leary read, "this property, located at 42 Dorchester Avenue, is owned by O'Leary Development Group, LLC." He looked up. "That's me." David laughed. It was a nervous, hysterical sound. "That's insane. My mother owns this house. She's lived here for 40 years. She's right there." David pointed at me. Mr. O'Leary turned. He saw me standing in the doorway of the empty white bedroom, leaning on my walker, looking pale and small. His expression softened, just a fraction. He nodded at me, a respectful tip of the chin. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said. "Good to see you up. The transfer went through. The funds are in your trust." "Thank you, Mr. O'Leary," I said. My voice was steady. David whipped his head around to look at me. His neck cracked audibly. "Mom?" he whispered. "What is he talking about? What transfer?" "I sold the house, David," I said. You what?" "I sold it," I repeated. 2 days ago. From the hospital." "No," Jessica said, shaking her head. "No, you didn't. You can't. We live here." "You didn't ask us." "I didn't have to," I said. "It's my name on the deed. Or it was. Now it's his." David stared at me. His brain was trying to reboot, trying to reconcile the reality of the last 2 years with the reality of the last 2 minutes. But why?" he stammered. "Why would you sell it? Where are we supposed to live?" "I don't know," I said. "Maybe you can find a minimalist studio. You like minimalism, don't you?" "This is a joke," David said, turning back to O'Leary. "She's sick. She's on medication. She doesn't know what she's doing. This sale is void. Get out." Mr. O'Leary sighed. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded document. He handed it to David. "It's a notarized bill of sale," O'Leary said, "witnessed by the hospital notary and her attorney." It's ironclad, kid. And honestly, you're lucky. Lucky? David shouted, reading the paper with trembling hands. Yeah, O'Leary said. Because Mrs. Sullivan sold it to me as a commercial asset with contents. Usually, that means I own everything inside. The furniture, the TV, the dishes. O'Leary gestured to the massive flat-screen TV in the living room. But Mrs. Sullivan is a nice lady. She put in a clause. She gave you a grace period. Grace period? Jessica whispered. O'Leary checked his watch. You have 1 hour, he said. Anything left in this house at 1:15 p.m. becomes the property of O'Leary Development. And tomorrow morning. He pointed to the man with the crowbar. Tony here starts taking down the drywall. We're turning this into a bed and breakfast. We need to gut it. Gut it? David looked around the foyer. But, we just painted. Gray primer? O'Leary scoffed. Yeah, we're stripping that. Heritage buildings need character, not whatever this is. You can't do this! Jessica screamed. She threw her phone on the floor. I have clothes. I have a wardrobe. I can't move in an hour. It's snowing. Then you better start packing, O'Leary said. He turned to his men. Boys, start in the kitchen. Clear the appliances. If it's attached to the wall, it stays. If it's loose, it goes in the dumpster out back unless they grab it. The dumpster? David yelled. Yeah, it's arriving in 10 minutes. The two large men walked past David and Jessica as if they were ghosts. They went into the kitchen. We heard the crash of pots and pans being stacked. David looked at me. His eyes were wide, wet, and terrified. Mom, he pleaded. Stop this. Please. Tell him to stop. We have nowhere to go. We have no money. We spent it on the equipment. You spent my money, I corrected. You spent the money from my bed. I'm sorry, he cried. I'll buy you a new bed. I'll sleep on the floor. Just don't sell the house. Don't kick us out. I looked at him. I saw the fear. I saw the panic. But I didn't see a son. I saw a stranger who had looked at my pain and seen a profit margin. It's too late, David, I said. The papers are signed. The money is in the bank. It's not my house anymore. But what about you? He asked, trying a different angle. Where are you going to go? You're crippled. You can't live on the street. You need us. I smiled. I don't need you, David, I said. I needed a bed. And since you sold it, I looked out the window. A long, sleek black car pulled up to the curb behind the medical transport van which had finally driven away. A driver in a cap got out. I made other arrangements, I said. I shuffled forward, moving toward the front door. David blocked my path. You're not leaving, he said, his face twisting into something ugly. You're not leaving us here to deal with this. Move, David, I said. No, he shouted. You owe us. We took care of you. You sold my bed, I screamed back, the anger finally breaking through my calm. You starved me. You ignored me. You treated me like a broken appliance. Move, mister. O'Leary stepped forward. He put a hand on David's shoulder. It wasn't a gentle touch. It was a grip that could crush stone. She said, move, son, O'Leary growled. And remember, I own the floor you're standing on. And I don't like trespassers. David flinched. He looked at O'Leary's fist. He looked at me. He stepped aside. I walked past him. I walked past Jessica, who was on her knees in the living room, frantically throwing expensive yoga blocks into a laundry basket, sobbing about her sacred space. I reached the front door. The driver of the town car was walking up the path. He saw me and rushed forward to help. Mrs. Sullivan? He asked. I'm here to take you to the Four Seasons. The Four Seasons? David whispered. Yes, I said. I booked the executive medical suite, room service, massage therapy, and a king-sized adjustable bed with Egyptian cotton sheets. I'm going to recover in comfort. You're staying at a 5-star hotel? Jessica asked, looking up, her face streaked with mascara. Take us with you, please. We can sleep on the sofa. I looked at them. No, I said. Mom, please. David begged, following me onto the porch. The snow swirled around us. It's freezing. We can't be homeless in a blizzard. I looked down at my walker. Then I looked back into the empty white bedroom. The blue yoga mat was still there, sitting in the center of the floor like a taunt. You have the mat, David, I said. What? The yoga mat, I pointed. You said the floor provides resistance. You said it aligns your spine. Take it. David stared at me. Take it to the shelter, I said. I hear the floors there are very hard. It should be perfect for your minimalist lifestyle. I turned away. The driver helped me down the steps. I got into the back of the town car. It was warm. It smelled of leather and safety. I didn't look back as we drove away, but I heard the sound of O'Leary shouting, 50 minutes left! Move it or lose it. I leaned back against the seat. My back still hurt. My surgery scars still throbbed. But for the first time in 2 years, the pain felt manageable. Because I knew that tonight, I would be sleeping in a bed. And my son would be learning exactly how hard the floor really was. The suspension of the Lincoln town car was a miracle of engineering. But even so, when we pulled up to the awning of the Four Seasons on Boylston Street, I was weeping. Not from grief that well had run dry somewhere between the empty bedroom and the yoga mat, but from the sheer, grinding agony of my spine. The adrenaline that had fueled my showdown with David was fading, leaving behind the raw nerve endings of a 70-year-old woman who had just undergone major surgery and then evicted her own son. The doorman, a young man in a pristine uniform, opened the door. He didn't look at me with pity. He looked at me with the professional deference due a paying guest. Welcome to the Four Seasons, Mrs. Sullivan, he said. We have a wheelchair ready for you. They wheeled me through the lobby. It smelled of fresh lilies and expensive beeswax polish. It was warm. It was quiet. There were no green smoothies, no ring lights, and no one telling me that pain was just weakness leaving the body. The executive medical suite was on the 8th floor. It was larger than the entire ground floor of my house. The curtains were drawn against the snow. And there, in the center of the room, was a bed. A king-sized, cloud-white, fully adjustable bed with 6 pillows. The staff helped me transfer. As I sank into the mattress, pressing the button to elevate my knees, I felt a sensation I hadn't felt in 2 years. Support. I slept for 14 hours. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The sun was streaming through the heavy drapes. I reached for the phone, bracing myself for a barrage of abuse from David. There were 42 missed calls, 30 texts. Mom, please answer. Mom, we are at a Starbucks. Mom, Jessica left me. Mom, I'm cold. I didn't reply. I pressed the button for room service. Good morning, Mrs. Sullivan, the operator said. What can we get for you? Coffee, I said. Eggs Benedict. And the newspaper. An hour later, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't room service. It was Mr. O'Leary. He walked in, looking out of place in the plush hotel room in his heavy work boots and canvas jacket, but he wiped his feet carefully on the mat. He was holding a large manila envelope and a small cardboard box. Morning, Margaret, he rasped. Nice digs. It's comfortable, I said, adjusting my pillows. Did the house close? Closed, locked, and gutted, O'Leary said, pulling a chair up to the bedside. My boys started swinging the sledgehammers at 8 a.m. sharp. The drywall is already coming down in the kitchen. And the tenants? I asked. I tried to keep my voice neutral. But a mother is always a mother, even when she's a landlord. O'Leary sighed. He placed the cardboard box on the bed. It was a show, he said. After you left, the girl Jessica, she lost it. Started throwing those yoga blocks at the wall. Screaming that she was going to sue you. Sue me. Sue the city of Boston. She always was dramatic, I noted. David was quieter, O'Leary said. He just sort of deflated. He tried to pack, but they have a lot of stuff, Margaret. Expensive stuff, useless stuff, juicers, tripods. They couldn't fit it all in the Uber. What did they do? They filled the car with the clothes, O'Leary said. Then Jessica told the driver to go. She got in. She didn't hold the door for David. I closed my eyes. She left him? She told him to wait with the rest of the stuff and she'd come back, O'Leary said. But I've seen that look before. She isn't coming back. She took the jewelry and the electronics. She left him with the kitchen appliances and that bike thing. The Peloton, I said. Yeah, that. O'Leary chuckled darkly. David stood in the driveway for an hour. It was snowing pretty hard. Eventually, he tried to drag the bike down the street. I think he was trying to get to the pawn shop on Dot Avenue. He didn't make it far. He left it on the curb. He tapped the cardboard box. I did a final sweep before the demo crew started, O'Leary said. Most of it was trash. But I found this in the hallway closet, tucked way back. I thought you might want it. I opened the box. Inside, wrapped in a dish towel, was a photo album. It was old. The leather cracked. I opened it. It was the album from David's childhood. Photos of him playing t-ball. Photos of Patrick teaching him to ride a bike. Photos of us, smiling, before the world got heavy. They hadn't thrown it out. They had just hidden it. Thank you, Mr. O'Leary, I whispered. I also brought this, he said, handing me the envelope. The wire transfer confirmation. $650,000. It's in your account. I looked at the paper. It was a lot of money. It was the price of my home. It was the price of my history. It feels like blood money, I admitted. It's freedom money. O'Leary corrected. You earned it. You paid for that house with 40 years of work. Don't let them tell you otherwise. He stood up. I put the yoga mat on the porch, by the way. Just in case he comes back for it. Figured he might need the back support. I laughed. It was a rusty sound, but it felt good. Goodbye, Mr. O'Leary. Enjoy the room service, Margaret. I stayed at the Four Seasons for a month. I did my physical therapy in the hotel gym. I ate meals that I didn't have to cook. I healed. But I knew I couldn't stay in Boston. The city was too small. Every time I saw a young man in a hoodie, my heart jumped. I needed distance. I needed warmth. My spine surgeon recommended a facility in Sarasota, Florida. Luxury senior living, the brochure said. Assisted living with independence. It had pools. It had gardens. It had no snow. I booked a flight. 6 months later. The sun in Florida is different than the sun in Boston. It warms you all the way through. I sat on the balcony of my second-floor condo, looking out at the Gulf of Mexico. The water was a brilliant, impossible turquoise. I was walking without the walker now, just a cane, and mostly for show. The surgery had worked. The rest had worked. I had a new bed. It was even better than the one David had sold. It had a massage function. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was 617, Boston. I usually let them go to voicemail, but today, I felt strong. I answered. Hello? Mom? It was David. His voice sounded different, thinner, older. Hello, David, I said. I didn't think you'd pick up. I almost didn't. How are you? He asked. I went to the house. It's gone. It's just a hole in the ground. O'Leary put up a fence. He's building a bed and breakfast, I said. It will be nice. I'm living in a basement, David said. The words rushed out of him. In Quincy. I'm working at a call center. It sucks, Mom. It really sucks. Work often does, I said. Jessica divorced me, he said. She took the dog. She took everything. I have nothing. You have your back alignment, I said. He was silent for a long time. That was cruel, he whispered. It was a mirror, I said. I just held it up. I miss you, he said. And then, the hook. I miss home. Is there any way I can come down there? I could help you. I could drive you to appointments. I closed my eyes. I listened to the sound of the ocean. I remembered the white room. I remembered the green smoothie. I remembered the yoga mat. I missed my son. I missed the boy in the photo album. But that boy didn't exist anymore. The man on the phone was a stranger who had looked at my pain and seen a profit margin. No, David, I said. But Mom, I'm suffering. Then you are learning, I said. Suffering is just weakness, leaving the life you built. You wanted to be a minimalist, David. Now you are. Please, he begged. Send me something. Anything. I'm drowning. I looked at the checkbook on the table next to me. I could send him money. I had plenty. But I remembered what O'Leary had said. Freedom money. I can't help you, David, I said. I have expenses. My new bed was very expensive, but it's worth it. I sleep very well. Mom. Goodbye, David. I hung up the phone. I pressed block caller. I sat there for a long time, watching the sun dip below the horizon. It was a beautiful sunset, orange and purple and gold. I wasn't happy that my son was struggling. No mother is. But I was safe. I was comfortable. And for the first time in 2 years, I was the one deciding who slept in my house. I picked up my tea. I leaned back against the cushions of my balcony chair. I was finally home.